Yeah, that's right. Welcome in. Welcome back, folks. 2A. Is Steve Angeli trending to become Notre Dame's version of LSU's Joe Burrow at the quarterback position? One national analyst thinks he could be. Very interesting. Let's discuss this edition of the Always Irish Show. As always, thanks for being here. You can find the program on YouTube. Do it. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Appreciate it very much. Give the video a thumbs up. That helps John out as well. Notifications on so you don't miss nothing. Twitter, search bar Always Irish or at Always Irish Inc. Emails alwaysirishnd@gmail.com. Audio only. Anywhere you want it, you can get it. Don't want to see my face. Nobody blames you for that. Call-in lines. It's just good to be back. 312-988-15. Dial it up. Tell Johnny all you've heard and seen. Notre Dame Fighting Irish brought to you by SI. Read all about it. Patreon.com/Always Irish. Former captain, leading tackler, Mike Goolsby and myself. Big weekend planned for blue and gold. Tailgate, stadium lot. Look for the flags lined up near Frank's statue somewhere. After the game, go over to the linebacker lounge, and we'll go over there with our actual linebacker captain, and we're going to do a live post-game show from the bar. Get yourself a cold one and watch us talk some blue and gold reactions. All right. This is a really, really interesting topic. Really, really interesting perspective today. In case you missed it. National analyst Greg McElroy said the other day he could see Steve Angeli becoming Notre Dame's version of what Joe Burrow became for LSU. Very, very interesting. And I want your brain moving, thinking about that dynamic and how awesome that 19 LSU team was and everything, and Burrow and whatever. Think about that, and then think about what you think or the Notre Dame fan and media contingent thinks of Steve Angeli. And it's just really interesting to think about what your initial thought may be when you hear this kind of comparison, and then actually look at the way McElroy sets up his take. So think in your head before we watch this, what is your immediate reaction to hearing the concept of McElroy looking at Burrow and saying maybe Angeli could be that for Notre Dame? Your initial reaction, let's watch the clip and how McElroy explains it and see if you agree or don't agree, and we'll rejoin and I'll bring up a couple things on my mind about this. So let's take a watch and a listen here.
I've seen Steve Angeli thrust into action against a ferocious pass rush in Penn State and one of the best defenses in the country. I saw Steve Angeli go into the lineup and just methodically, right down the field, accurately carving up a defense. Who's to say that Steve Angeli's ceiling, when the real lights are on, isn't outrageously high? We've seen him make one start, and it was a couple years ago. What if, when we fast forward to this year, Steve Angeli has some awakening, and all of a sudden he's the second coming of Joe Burrow? You remember now, Joe Burrow at Ohio State was just a guy. In his first year at LSU, he was just a guy. Well, Steve Angeli, up to this point of his career, solid, just a guy. But maybe there's another level in there that we just don't know about. Because when the game flipped in Joe Burrow's final season, when he got a chance to run an offense that was built for him, look what happened. Maybe that's in there for Steve Angeli.
Really, really interesting take. And there's a lot to dissect there to try and see where there's some overlap that makes sense here and where there maybe isn't. Let's break this down. Here's number one. It's always very interesting to me to see the way national analysts view Notre Dame things compared to how our own media and fan base view them. It's always interesting to me to see the differences between national guys that look at everything in the college landscape and aren't particularly emotional about Notre Dame, good or bad, for or against, compared to the way we see everything when it's Notre Dame, Notre Dame, Notre Dame focus all the time. And I often see some differences in opinion. And I just think that's really interesting. How if you're around this team every minute of every day of the year, you see it one way. And if you have a different perspective, a little bit on the outside, you may see it differently. So seeing what people think outside that Notre Dame bubble is healthy and a very interesting experiment. Here's number 2. And maybe this doesn't matter. Maybe it does. I don't know what to make with this information, but it's what I believe. I feel like Angeli is the least pure athletic guy of the 3 guys up for this job. Do you agree or disagree? I just think Kenny and CJ have a higher physical athletic ceiling than Angeli's ever going to have. But I admit that doesn't necessarily mean those guys would be a better quarterback this year for Notre Dame. So how do you balance those things out? I think the 2 younger guys have a higher athletic ceiling. But does that mean they give you a better chance to beat Miami and Texas A&M in the first 2 games next year? I don't know. I don't know. Number 3. Very interesting comparison of the career arc for Burrow and Angeli. Just a guy, nothing, just a guy. And then the right opportunity lines up with the right situation. And then boom, you're way more than just a guy. You're the guy. Instead of just being a guy, you're the guy. Wait your time, find the right opportunity, and then it all comes together. That may be the most interesting thing about this is how McElroy kind of pieced together that career arc trajectory of not being that highly thought of or whatever, and then you're in the right situation and it all hits. That's interesting to me. Here's the number 4. I loved that Penn State drive to go into the half. He had poise, he had confidence, he was calm, and he delivered the ball where it needed to be wonderfully to get us on the board to go into that halftime with a little momentum in a first half that was pretty ugly. I loved that. It was a big part of getting us back into that ball game and being competitive to give us a chance to beat Penn State. But is that enough evidence, that one drive and that one situation, to base your opinion off of? I don't know. McElroy mentioned the one start, and I believe it was the bowl game, and your opponent, their coach left. It was all the backups. Everybody was in the portal. Wasn't it the Beavs, Oregon State? So is that dynamic and then the mop-up duty when he's been in and the Penn State thing enough to form a full opinion on one way or another and feel like you have a good handle of the realities? I don't know. I honestly don't know the answer. If that's enough body of work to form an opinion on or not, I don't know. Here's my 5th point, and it may be the one that makes me hesitant to go down this path McElroy's sending us down. And I'm wondering if you guys are thinking of this same bullet point I am when you hear this comparison of Angeli to Burrow and that LSU team. Burrow waited his time, transferred, waited his time, got the opportunity. But who were his skill guys he was throwing to at LSU? It was a historically athletic skill group at LSU. Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Marshall Jr. I'll give you an example. Jamar Chase in that year had just under 1,800 yards receiving as the top yardage receiver for LSU. It was 1,780, I think, just under 1,800 yards. Our leader last year was grade outs with 592. Just throwing that out there as an example. And I know it's all different and it wasn't a Riley Leonard strength to throw, so we didn't do it as much or whatever. I'm just saying, you can't just look at the quarterback part of this. Who do you have to work with? That 19 LSU skill group is historically revered as one of the best units in modern college football history, how they all came together and what they did. You ain't going to have that in Notre Dame. So you also, when you're looking at this, you got to look at what's around. Even, the quarterback's quarterback, but what else do you have? Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase, we don't have nothing. We don't have no bodies that look and move anything like that. 1,800 yards. Our top guy was under 600. So who you have to work with and throw to is a big part of this. You're not going to have LSU skill guys from 2019. And I think that's where this got me thinking, man, I get the career arc part, being a good soldier, waiting your time, getting your chance. I get all that. But I don't see Notre Dame having this building to what that LSU team had as far as talent. And so does that mean you need a more athletic quarterback that can do more with his legs? Because you can't count on no Jefferson and Jamar Chase being here, whatever. I don't know. But it's a really interesting thing to think about. So what do you make of all this? This is very high praise coming from a full-time national analyst who's also played the position under Nick Saban, by the way, of all people. So this is a guy with a lot of credibility in this space. Do you agree with the take? Do you disagree? Does this change your opinion or make you think of this dynamic any differently? Or no? I get the career arc comparison. But once we get into anything that involves 2019 LSU skill guys compared to Notre Dame's, that's where you lose me a little bit on that conversion over there. That's where you lose me a little bit. So this is really high praise for Angeli. It's making Notre Dame people be a little more open-minded to looking at how this could be. Are we missing something here? I think it's healthy to have this in people's heads, to be thinking of, like, on the high end what it could be. I don't know. I want to know what you guys think of this. My take is the career arc part of it, waiting your time, good soldier. I get all that. Like what I've seen from Angeli when he's in. But going that far to 2019 LSU without having those skill guys on the other end to rely on, that's where I wonder if this falls short of lining up apples to apples. And if Notre Dame needs a little more athleticism at the position because you don't have those skill guys. I don't know. Really interesting take. High praise from a highly respected guy. Put in the comments what you think about it, and we'll talk about it on Friday. Don't forget to check out the merchandise. The link is in the description. You can browse and carouse all the different Always Irish gear. Make sure you head over there and get something for the next tailgate. Thanks for being here.